Hi, everybody. Welcome to our Lunch and Learn with LCMD. Today, we're joining us with Tom, Richard, and then Sven, and they're going to talk about the LCMD product. This is going to be 1 hour long, and feel free to ask any questions in the chat box or unmute yourself. I'm going to turn it over to our guest right now. Go ahead, Sven.
Thanks, Lauren, for the opportunity, and greetings from Germany. My name is Sven. I'm one of the co-CEOs from LCMD. We're a German located company, but we're already doing business in the US since about 2 years. With me, I have Daniel. He's our head of business development, joining in right now from Austria, from the mountains. And with us as well is Tom Richert from RaisingTerrain. He's one of the lean experts in North America, based in Boston. And Tom is here with us because he utilized LCMD in a couple of his clients' projects already, and as an expert in pull planning, we asked him to join here and share a little bit of his experience utilizing pull planning in projects in analog and a digital way. Because what we really want to talk about today, and probably won't take 1 hour, is about how to improve the way how to implement lean and methodology itself, and how digital tools can help being a little bit more efficient and effective in the way how to utilize it, and what the current problems may be. So just a little bit background about LCMD itself. Mentioned already, we're from Europe, and in Europe we're probably the leading pull planning or digital platform tool with about 140 clients and more than 130 billion in project volume. We're more likely found in kind of mega projects in data center, pharmaceutical production, infrastructure, energy, and so on. Less in I would say residential homes, hospitals is something else we're being utilized in, or Aecon uses right now in the Vancouver SkyTrain project. So what we want to talk about today, a couple points, is what are the couple challenges that construction industry usually is seeing in between the disconnect and the execution part, and why pull planning sessions, although they deliver generally great results, sometimes break down during the execution part, and how the digital way, or hybrid way, I would call it as well, especially Tom, who also still like the sticky ways, right? How that can help you guys in being more effective in utilizing it, and how this ties back into the scheduling tools. And then Daniel will be here in order to show you, like 10 minutes, 12 minutes, a little bit the tool itself, so get a better understanding how that is working and how you could utilize that in the most effective way. And then we'll have a Q&A at the end about it, and you can ask any kind of questions. So one thing I want to share up front is we have analyzed about close to 1,500 customer calls that we had about their challenges in construction. And beside the fact that a couple of things, there are three major things that stood out almost at almost 90% of all of the calls and customer discussions we had. The first one is the difference between the schedule and execution. You can spend as much time you want in building a very detailed schedule for any kind of project. And at the end of the day, you probably likely find that not to become reality. And there's a disconnect usually happening between the schedule itself and the execution, whether you utilize P6 or MS Project or Asset Power Project, it doesn't matter. There's always a certain kind of disconnect between what schedules have been trying to accomplish in the project and how this is being transferred and executed on the construction side. The second biggest problem is the lack of a single source of truth. So data are scattered across the entire projects. They're either digital in multiple kind of scheduling tools, or in Excel, or in Miro, or on paper, and they rarely sit together at one point so we can get the benefits out of it. And the third biggest chunk of problems that we've been told is a lack of communication, collaboration between the different kind of stakeholders, whether it be internal management, scheduling, operations, or external as well, third-party companies and trade partners. So how to ensure the communication is fluid. And I can give you a couple of examples how we see that happening in LCMD. Maybe just let me refer that right away before jumping to the next one. We have two major examples where this communication in one scaling tool, lcmd, works really super. One is the Terminal 3 Airport Frankfurt, has been a 4 billion project. It's about to finish right now. And we have 120 superintendents with more than 2,000 changes a day in LCMD happening and generating more than 8 million data points. And we have a super interesting tunnel system that goes under the sea between Denmark and Germany, a super critical, difficult engineering project where we have more than 800 people working all together in one schedule. Imagine that to happen in P6. I can imagine you will not be able to see that anytime, anywhere. So that's what we can deliver, helping this collaboration, communication, being very fluid and bring everyone on the same page. So having said that, let's look at the traditional type of pull planning. And actually, you see, Thomas, you up here, right? Right, yes. So that's the typical way, right? So you come out with a pull planning session. Usually you may get into the design phase. You may receive a master schedule at some point of level, maybe just milestone, maybe phase planning, maybe a little bit more detailed already from a scheduling organization or third-party scheduling company, either in P6 or MS Project, which is a bit more the traditional way here in Europe. And then you start doing the pull planning, using sticky notes, as you've seen in the previous pictures. Some do it in Excel. That may work as well, or a few use Miro or something similar, like a digital dashboard. And sometimes it's a combination of all three. But then what's happening if you go into the execution phase, and you do the weekly progress tracking, you do the similar things, right? So you're updating the pull plan in sticky notes or put it in Excel. But this is a very manual process that's happening and need to be manually uploaded again in the master schedule so that your schedulers understand what's going on and they can report it back into the share to the owners, for example. So that may be a contractual obligation. In principle, it does work in a way, right? But it does come with a couple of challenges and problems around. So first, it's all manual. Manual work means a couple of things. First, it's work intense, labor intense. It's not connecting the dots. So, and you lose the history. I recently talked to a VP of a real estate developer, quite a big one, without naming him, and they have started doing the first lean pull planning sessions, one of their development projects. And in principle, they like the methodology, but they run out of space. So they don't have enough walls anymore to keep the sticky notes up, which is odd in a way, because in my principle, and Tom is a little bit different perspective, but just working with sticky notes is in my opinion, not really lean, because it is not the most effective way. What do I mean with that one? You lose history. You don't track what has changed and why it has changed. And that does not allow you then to come up with a continuous improvement plan. You'll not be able to learn out of it. You'll not be able to track the best practice out of it and transfer that to the next projects, for example, or learn, or let the company allow to learn out of it. So in principle, methodology is good, but I think the execution can be done better. That's what I want to say. And Tom, jump in anytime I say something stupid or so. You're the lean expert, right? It's not
Well,
me.
just maybe to correct, I do advocate getting the information in a digital format as soon as you've used the sticky notes. So, I'll talk a little bit about that later, how the two can work together.
Okay, the next part is going to be yours anyway. So, but let me just frame this a little bit more. Usually what you use to work is common tools is like you have your P6 or MSP project or ASA, whatever. You come up with like Excel planning sheets. You may use whiteboards or sticky notes. And I've seen actually data centers run on sticky note pull plan sessions as well. And then that's not a joke, by the way. Someone opened the door, it was windy, and half of them flew down. So no kidding, by the way. And then meeting notes, email communication, whatever. What I want to say is you have different kind of tools, and they're rarely really well connected in a way, and it's a manual update. So you lose a little bit of transparency. And one thing, I'm gonna have another call. It was another smaller developer, Senior. He says like all our project managers in our 17 projects, they're actually working not on site. So when they do the pull plan sessions with the teams on site, they feel a little bit aside. They will not be able to participate well. And if you do a combination at least of both, or just do it digital right away, it allows everyone being even remotely working into the pull plan session. And that is a bit more inclusive than whether you have to be on site really in order to do the job. And Tom certainly will refer a little bit about the pros and cons doing it manually as well, and how to combine that with a digital tool. So to summarize a little bit the challenge that we have identified with a couple, or actually a lot of our projects, is the disconnection between the schedule and the pull plan sessions themselves. For many reasons, right? Usually is because it's the only way you're getting the schedule. Sometimes the only way that the owners want to have the reporting being done in P6. But this is all be something that we can actually work across and along. And something else, what we want to say is if you do this kind of pull plan session with your teams and they continue learning from them, it is great to actually keep track of what has been done and accomplished, and also what has been changed and why it didn't work for some time. And something else you may not get from sticky notes is about the duration, how this really translate into the length of the process, and so on. There's a couple limitations if you just go analog. And I think that probably in this transition period of the industry still adopting lean and pull planning sessions, a combination of hybrid is probably the most effective one, in our opinion. With that, let's have a look on how this could go forward. This is actually, I like to share that from Matt because it came right after Tom and I have been there for a pull planning training session in, was it Baltimore, right?
Yeah.
With like 30 superintendents in the room. And Matt was one of our first clients here at RaisingTerrain, who then actually made this as a learning session for his team. And we showed as well how pull planning in general as a methodology can work. And then in combination of hybrid even could work much better. So with that, I'd like to transition here over to Tom, the expert, not me. Let me know anytime I should progress.
Well, thanks, Sven. And if you go back to the other slide, because that illustrates what we may be intending to convey with regard to hybrid planning. And I just would call it a good way to plan. So like many other people, I advocate using the sticky notes for the actual planning session. Planning sessions should not be efficient. They should produce good plans and great conversations about how the work will unfold. And sticky notes slow the conversation down. It's a dynamic Steve Spear and Gene Kim refer to as slowification. But it's important when you're solving big problems and pulling the plan for a phase or for the entire project, milestone plan. That's a big problem that you want to address quickly. Not quickly. I want to address thoroughly and effectively. And the sticky notes slow down that conversation. And when you're in the same room with people, it also gets you face to face with other people. Good questions come out of those sessions. Excellent identification of constraints, concerns, and really collaboration in terms of understanding how work will flow. And what it means to work together as a team. A lot of times in planning sessions, it's oftentimes the first time some people have been in a room with each other. And so slowing it down, it does make a big difference. There's also some science behind the idea that using implements with your hands produces better, deeper thinking. There is a hand-brain connection, and so there are researchers that will say that that's a real dynamic. Now, I'm all with what Sven is saying in terms of, once you have a plan, you want to get it into a digital format very, very quickly. The best we could do 15 and let alone 20 and 25 years ago was taking a plan that was pulled and getting it into CPM software, And sometimes this, the person responsible for that would take days, if not longer, and that's challenging. What I've done with LCMD, which has been very nice, the ease and speed at which someone can, first of all, learn and then use the application is great. And so in these sessions, we've had an engineer actually entering into LCMD the data or the information that's being pulled by the trade contractors and the foremen that are up working on the board. So here you see part of a planning board with the sticky notes next to the monitor that is showing the activities that have been pulled by the team. It's helpful for a couple reasons. One, it's in the digital format right away. Second, when you want to review and do your forward pass of your plan, now you've got it in a date formatted version. So I'll add a couple other advantages too. A lot of times when you're pulling, say you're pulling 4 rooms of the finishes of 4 patient rooms on a 28 room floor, you can replicate that single stream of sticky notes 6 more times without actually having to literally write out sticky notes. And in this particular session that's being illustrated, we had some of the design professionals that were on the team. So they weren't part of pulling the work, but they were on the team that could not be there in person. They could at least through the online video see the plan that was being pulled on their monitors. They could comment on it. And they had a better framework for addressing questions that the trades had regarding the intended work. So for me, this is ideal, having that deeper thinking of planning and then having it being implemented and recorded digitally right away. Yeah, and then on the next slide, I think we'll, just want to, and this is where I think it's important to get very specific about terminology. So master planning, ideally, if you're following, and not ideally, but if you're literally going to follow the benchmark for the last planner system that Glenn Ballard and Iris Tomlin update from time to time and curate, the proper use of the last planner system stipulates you're going to do master planning, milestone planning using a pulse process. They don't stipulate sticky notes or electronic, but they do stipulate a pull process. And I know a lot of projects out there, they tend to put together the master schedule with lots of tactical moves in a CPM format and then derive a milestone schedule from that. That's a way to do it, but it's not the way the last planner system is set up. I have worked with teams and we've had great success with pulling the milestone plan and understanding how the work should unfold. That really helps the team have a strategic conversation about how the work should be, as opposed to sort of seeing where it falls out based on a lot of tactical moves via activities that are put into a CPM scheduling software. Better to have that strategic conversation. Then you can put that strategy that you pulled. If you have a project that needs to keep it in a P6 or a Microsoft project format, with LCMD, if you're, I would still put the milestone plan in LCMD as you're pulling it. Be a great way to see it digitally, share it with people that have to participate online. But then you can export that from LCMD into your P6 or Microsoft project format that you may need to keep. Then when you move to phase planning, again, the process I would recommend is using sticky notes, but then documenting that in real time with LCMD. And then you've got a platform for uploading, updating your data that's in P6 or project. And that's, I think, one of the features that I appreciate about LCMD is because that is an issue. People do need to keep a master schedule up, either internally for corporate reasons or because of client demands. That that CPM schedule is important to them. And so certainly understandable that they want to update that. Yet in the field, the plan that the crews are working with, it needs to be the one that you pulled using whatever process you use, but the one you pulled and the one you're coordinating with in terms of your constraint management, your weekly planning, and your daily huddles. And again, LCMD will help facilitate all of those. The teams I've worked with that have used that, it's actually made it fairly simple to understand the work, and the clarity of the work is important. So that, and just to step back too, pull planning is a broadly used term. And really you have to stipulate what you're pulling. So are you pulling a milestone plan? Or are you pulling a phase plan? You could even pull a sequence of work that comes, happens across a few days. So when you say pull plan, what are you referring to is a question that you need to address. And so I think it's important that you be clear about that. Most of the time, we're talking about phase plans, which you do want to be collaborative, and so you want a platform that not only promotes that collaboration, but shows you in terms of visual management how it's unfolding as the trades are talking with each other. And again, I agree, at least where we are today, that we still need to integrate with those CPM schedules. Getting the plan from sticky notes into a digital platform that can integrate with that is a big value add. And displaying information in real time, again, also extremely important to do as well. And keeping that same information in front of everybody. Of course, the challenge is, let's go two different directions. The challenges with the CPM schedule is the formatting just makes it very difficult to read. The challenges with people who do want to keep sticky notes for look-ahead planning and weekly planning is there's too much detail when you get into the weekly and look-ahead planning to effectively manage that with sticky notes. You can use Scotch tape to keep the wind from blowing the sticky notes off the wall, but that's not enough. The times I've seen people attempt to do that, they're either not getting the right detail on the wall for the weekly and look-ahead planning, or they're getting so much detail in there, it's cluttered, and there's no good way to organize it, and the visual management just goes awry. So, I'm in the camp of sticky notes are great for the phase planning and the milestone planning sessions, but then get it into, now that we have digital tools that are very easy to use, convenient, have great visual management capabilities, get it into the digital tool as quickly as possible, right? During the planning session.
So I got a question between in those sticky note sessions, how did you manage the dependencies to show up there? I mean, actually, a good way.
Sharpies on a whiteboard, or not Sharpies on a piece of paper, to dry erase on a whiteboard. I love whiteboards because you can make notes, you can draw connections. If you see a good phase plan after it's been pulled, it's probably a little messy looking, and that's another reason to get it documented really well, because the team's making notes on it. They're drawing lines to show relationships on there. But more reason that you really can't keep it as a management tool. It's the sticky notes are really an appropriate thinking tool, but a digital platform that can handle all that detail, code it in different ways, sort it in different ways, allow you to display clear milestones. Things you can't do with sticky notes, you want to do in a digital platform.
Okay, great, thanks. With that, let's have a quick look into the product itself. Daniel?
Yes, thank you, guys. I share my screen now, right?
Yep.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, I do, Daniel.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. So this is an imported schedule from a P6 file. So this is how it can start, as Tom already mentioned. And now the time is to make some smaller items here and plan into more detail. This is why we have our whiteboard here. And I don't know, Sven, if you want to join the session here, we can do it together and can collaborate in real time here. This is the whiteboard, and the workshop view is now without time, without days, just how it is done on a construction site or in the workshops without timeline, just putting the trades in a correct order. And now Sven is doing the drywall sticky note here, and I am pulling the finishing, and I will put a little bit more trades in here. So groundworks and what else do we have here? Roof, rough works. Please don't hold me into account of correctness here, but it's just an example. And this is how we do the pool planning sessions here. In a next step, if you have all your trades or all your designers in here, you can put them into the right order, and also switch to the plan view. And now you can add some time to the specific duration. For example, 2 weeks. The standard duration is 1 week for each sticky note here, and we can do also we can vary in the duration. The next thing is what you can do is setting up dependencies as well, like you do it here with the plus symbol and with the arrows here. And now this is the result of one pool planning session here. And these are the different trains or the different processes for the different building parts, floors, whatever. And in the next step, you switch back to our process plan here. And we in this case, we already did some detailed planning here, and this is our detailed planning. Normally you can just open the library here and put in your different processes. So all processes that we had in the workshop view, in the whiteboard view, we have also here, and now we can just move these processes into our schedule here. If you want to do it with the takt time planning demo, or I can show you here a takt time example. This is a small student housing project. We have our whiteboard here, and now I'm telling the computer just to put this standard takt zone for the apartments into the schedule. The schedule is empty now, and I just tell the computer, please put in this train starting next week on Monday, and it's there with one click, and overall floors for all floors here. What can we do in the process plan here? What different the main? I will show you just the main features and the most important features. You need a status view. What's your current status on the construction site? This is something that we think is very important, that you can steer and manage your project properly. The green stickies here are done. The work is already done. The orange ones are a little delayed, and the red ones over there are not finished in the past. This is what is just an easy traffic light here. And you got your current status of the project with one view. Next thing is, Tom spoke about a lot of details. If you want to see all your dependencies, you can switch on the dependency mode, and there you can see all your dependencies. So all the details here are linked directly to the master schedule. And the even better view is this view, the conflict view. And if you move some stickies now, you can see immediately the impact on your action here. This is something, it's a really powerful tool if you use this in construction, on the meetings on site. If you can tell the people, hey, is it really true that you can't do your work here, or is it really true that we need to lengthen your process here? Can you see the impacts on the other trades as well? And also in the design phases, we made the experience that all the designers and the client even uses LCMD and had his tasks as well in the time schedule. And so the client is also, if he needs to decide something, the decision making of the client, of the owner, is very important in the early project phases. And he also has his tasks in the schedule here, and everybody can see that he has to do something and what's the impact if he doesn't decide in time. And the last thing I want to show you is our baseline view, our planned versus actual comparison. We just duplicate all the swim lanes on the left side. The gray ones is the gray schedule here is the baseline, and the colorful line is our actual schedule. And if you move something, you can see the comparison immediately, and with a like a spotlight, you can see where the process moved and even why. We have a history on each process, and if somebody moves something, you get immediately a log, and it says, okay, Daniel moved something on the 12th of March. And I can even set some reasons why, a change of design from the client, for instance. And you can put some reasons of variances on every move here. And at the end, you have a history of all changes that were made in the schedule. And this is very cool to have, like a history, because if the claims come on your desk, and you can easily see, okay, is this a valid claim or isn't it a valid claim because of some, you can also always see who moved something. It's also very important if you have, like Sven told us before, if you have a big airport terminal project, for instance, and there are hundreds of different trade partners and even construction managers, and they work together here, you want to know who moved something if you choose to give these permissions of moving things. That brings me to a very important point as well. The cloud-based platform here can be reached from everybody the project manager decides, and you have different rights and roles, and you can easily set up the roles and the rights for every participant of the project. So even you can say, okay, you just have to, or you just can see, for instance, the master schedule and no details, maybe for the client, I don't know. And you can easily choose here who sees what and who can change what. Tom, do you want me to show anything else, or do you think that is enough for the first impression?
I think that's a good first impression. I think, just to clarify, because I'm looking in the chat, you on the Takt swim lanes, they just happen to be numbered from the top down, but you could label them so you could have the Takt actually populate upward, right? From a lower milestone, I'm sorry, from a lower swim lane to an upper swim lane, correct?
Yeah, we're totally free in bringing
Yeah.
those different areas in order.
That's just a question that came up, is confirming that, yeah, that flexibility is there. And that touches on a point that I appreciate, because the different superintendents I've worked with have different strategies and ways of organizing information. And LCMD isn't forcing them into one specific way. It adapts to whatever their way of wanting to visually manage the work happens to be.
So maybe one last thing, the limitations of how many swim lanes, how many hierarchy levels, and what else. There's no limits. You can just do whatever you want in this schedule, and this is open in every direction, in the length, in the amount of lines. There's no limits.
Thanks, Daniel.
Bye, guys. Have a nice day.
Yeah. So let's get back to the presentation. Let me share my screen again. And then we go quickly to the Q&A. And Robert, from the chat, if you would like to see that a little bit more in depth, and especially with the integration of BIM, then we're happy to schedule another call. We show you how that works. If that's okay. Tom, you see my screen again? I'm not quite sure.
Yes.
Okay. So some came up in the conversation with some US clients. What would be the best way to actually implement this digital in a digital way? Usually, we would recommend to do a first pilot, get an understanding how the tool stack is working, and utilizing that, focus only on the phase planning and look at planning, and then start integrating the flow with the master schedules and train then the core team. And then once the first team is really up and running in utilizing the methodology as well, the tool stack, then we would recommend to then doing the expansion. One thing to note here is that LCMD were very much focused on ensuring the teams getting up and running very fast and quickly. So it's not just that we're giving you a software solution and then let you alone. We're participating in the first initial setup and training, and then we're joining the teams on a weekly basis in the beginning to help answering kind of questions, get them through the first, I would say, baby steps until they're actually self-sufficient and saying like, thanks for joining, but we don't need you anymore. Everything is fine. So we want to ensure the product and the methodology is used in the right way. And if you're the company that has not much experience about lean or pull planning itself, then we have a network with great people like Tom here on the call helping and joining the companies as well for such kind of projects. With that, we come actually about to the end. So maybe, Tom, you can share maybe a little bit of the insights of some of the projects you've done. For example, I think we referred a little bit about the hospital you've done, where this has been turned into some extra special care, intensive care, and so on. Maybe you can refer a little bit how that worked out for our teams there.
Yeah, well, and it was actually a medical surgical wing build out of 28 rooms, and then the core area. So the team was able to pull that they pulled it with sticky notes, but they only had to pull 4 rooms. They had to agree on the what the workflow would be for the 4 rooms, and agree on the pace that they would move at. And in that case, they agreed on a 5-day pace. And so once that's entered into LCMD, it's just a matter of copying and pasting that flow through there. They could have used the Takt feature as well, but the way we pulled it and some modifications that they made going from room to room, it was just as easy actually for them to do the copy and paste and make the adjustments on LCMD on screen. The core areas they happened to pull independent of each other. They felt that there was enough different sequencing and flow and timing of the work that they would pull that. But again, entered all that right into LCMD. And the way ideally that you use it, and a lot of teams aren't ideal, but you've got the ability to in LCMD now and actually for at least half a year now to look at the daily tasks and add in daily breakdowns of longer tasks. So say you pull a 5-day task in your phase planning session, you can zoom in on that and actually the week before, the way the last planner system stipulates, you can make weekly assignments or the trade foreman can make weekly assignments for that daily assignments for that 5-day task. So when you're in your daily huddle, you're not looking at just a 5-day task, am I 20% or 40% of the way through it, but you're looking at specific daily plans that the foreman has, and in last planner language, really daily commitments that they've made that you're checking on. So that's the way I coach teams to use it. LCMD facilitates that very cleanly, which is something I appreciate. We also used that on a very different project where it was essentially the conversion of an office building into a laboratory facility. And a lot of shaft and infrastructure related work to be done. And so no two areas had the same sequencing, had the same trades. So in that kind of irregular planning of an environment, again, LCMD was able to map that fairly well. And then the team had a guide for their weekly and daily coordination that was based on a collaborative plan that they put together.
Okay, great. Robert came up just with a couple of questions in regard to the whiteboard. So the whiteboard can scale as much as you want. And we do have companies who are building their own library actually on LCMD in those whiteboards, and we're soon launching an enterprise version where you can share the same kind of plans across your entire organization, and you can utilize them as a real library, and you can build your schedules very quickly with drag and drop anytime. Sorry, then, Robert, on the oversized whiteboard. I'm not quite sure I understand your question. Can you elaborate a little bit more, Robert? Or Tom, you understand the question on the oversized?
Well, I guess Robert can correct, but I think he's thinking if you want to use the whiteboard on, say, a touch screen, can you just blow that up large so that they can create and drag the sticky notes on there? I mean, because the whiteboard, you can expand that to full screen. It's very easy to manipulate, zoom in, zoom out with the application. And so if what you're talking about, Robert, is using it on, say, a large touch screen, yeah, you can zoom in on that whiteboard so it fills up the whole screen.
Yeah. And similarly, the question regard to your, so we do have a couple universities actually working in LCMD for students, and we do have some master PhD students at dual master and doctor projects with it. So reach out to me. You find me on LinkedIn, or I share my contact details right after this one. Maybe just sharing it right now, so you have them. Reach out to me, and definitely will be able to help you. And then, Robert, how big a whiteboard can be? I think as big as your screen is. I mean, we could pull it any size, so there's no limitation on that one. So that answers the question of Robert. And again, if you want to have Robert, if you want to have a person call on that one, we can show you that a little bit more in depth and answer any kind of other questions that may come up as well. Just to give you some insights about some of the biggest projects we got, not just in volume, it's like around 10 billion. But we have like some of the biggest projects with like 56,000 processes in one schedule, in one map. So that's actually the Terminal 3 airport terminal from Frankfurt, with 120 superintendents working inside. And still it works flawless. So they can, up to 30, 40 people can work real time at the same time in LCMD in the same schedule without any breaking the system or so on. And Tom, I think you mentioned it earlier around like there are owners that still demand the CPM type of schedule, which is certainly true. But we start seeing a shift. So in Germany, we have less P6, more MS project is more like the defined standard. But we see more and more projects or even designers, especially architects and engineering, moving away from it because they find it too complex, not user-friendly enough, I would say. And they achieve the same thing in LCMD. If you're not heavy loaded on data and mass or budget, then an LCMD plan works just perfectly. The current project in the Vienna airport, the capital of Austria, by the way, doesn't use any CPM schedule anymore. So replacing that completely. And we just signed up with Sanofi a couple projects where we've been the leading tool as well. And P6 has been the original tool, but they actually don't like what they see. They actually don't see what they want, so they move away from it and utilizing an integrated solution with a BIM model and delivers much more insights about the budget constraints, the progress management, and so on and so forth, that they could actually see out of a P6 schedule. So, Robert, that may be very interesting. I think you had questions around the BIM model itself. So, I'd like to offer you a chance to show that to you in a separate call, how nice that works, especially if you have high complex projects about HVAC or so on. We had a Deutsche Sanya project, 1.2 billion laboratory, highly complex, 12 months of commissioning phase and so on. That's all very synchronized very well with the BIM model and the schedule of LCMD, and you can make the clash detection, budget constraint management, real-time tracking, etc., all synchronized together in a very visual way, and that was a super fancy, great project. So, do we have any more questions coming up here from the participants? Time check. 10 to full hour. Well, if there are no other kind of questions anymore, then I'd like to thank Tom. I'd like to thank everyone on the call for participating.